My husband demanded we be brutally honest with each other. Challenge accepted. My husband Giorgio discovered a podcast about radical honesty in relationships and decided he was going to make it his entire personality. We need to start being completely honest with each other about everything because that's what mature couples do, he announced during dinner. I told him we were already honest with each other about the important things and that other things were better left unsaid. In reality, I know our marriage only worked at all because I knew how to bite my tongue. But he said, that's exactly the kind of toxic positivity that destroys marriages because you're prioritizing comfort over authentic connection. I tried to explain that he was actually pretty sensitive and might not like complete honesty as much as he thought he would. He got offended and said I was infantilizing him by suggesting he couldn't handle the truth about anything, then accused me of already hiding things from him, which proved we needed this policy. For 3 days, he kept bringing it up every time we talked, saying I must not trust him enough to be vulnerable or that I was emotionally immature for wanting to maintain boundaries in our marriage. He bought 5 books about radical honesty and left them around the house with specific pages bookmarked, then played podcast episodes at full volume while following me from room to room. Fine, you want brutal honesty? We'll do brutal honesty, I finally said when he woke me up at midnight to discuss why my resistance to transparency was a red flag. He literally clapped his hands like a child and said this would revolutionize our marriage and bring us closer than ever. The next morning, he asked why I'd been quiet at his parents' anniversary dinner last weekend, so I figured now was as good as time as any to start. Because your mother spent the entire night comparing me to your ex-girlfriend who's now a surgeon, because she doesn't know that you helped her cheat her way through medical school, I said while buttering my toast. Giorgio's face went slack and he said that was unnecessarily harsh, but I reminded him this was his idea. Also, your dad kept touching our waitress inappropriately, and everyone pretended not to notice because that's what your family does with uncomfortable truths. He started to argue, but I kept going with the honesty he'd demanded. Your brother told me at Christmas that your parents only pretend to support your business ideas because they're terrified you'll have another breakdown like when you dropped out of law school. His coworker Miles came over to watch the game that afternoon, and Giorgio made the mistake of bragging about our new honesty policy and how evolved our relationship had become. Since we're being honest, Miles, you should know that Giorgio only invites you over because everyone else finds him exhausting and you're too polite to say no, I said while bringing them snacks. He actually thinks you're boring, but you always bring good beer and never stay too late, which makes you the perfect guest who requires minimal effort. Miles looked between us uncomfortably while Giorgio tried to laugh it off as a joke, but I reminded him that jokes weren't part of radical honesty. Oh, and that promotion he's been bragging about is actually just a lateral move with a fancier title because his boss wants him to quit but doesn't want to fire him. Miles suddenly remembered he had somewhere to be and left while Giorgio followed him to the door trying to explain. Thursday night was dinner with his parents at their country club, where his mother always made sure everyone knew how successful their family was. When his dad started his usual speech about building everything from nothing and the importance of family values, I decided radical honesty should apply here too. It's interesting you mention values when Giorgio spent $8,000 on OnlyFans last year that he hid in business expenses, I said while cutting my steak. His mother dropped her wine glass while his father turned purple, and Giorgio kicked me under the table frantically. He told me it was networking for his podcast about modern relationships, but honestly he was just addicted to a creator named Candy, who convinced him they had a real connection. His mother started hyperventilating while other diners turned to stare at our table. The credit